Okay, so I know everyone's been waiting, so I'm very thankful that we're able to finally get this process going. And we wanted to meet with everyone tonight as a group so that we can share information of what the next steps are. So my name is May Nakahata, and I'm the chair for the Central Maui Soil and Water Conservation District, and we are the sponsors of the Kula Emergency Watershed Protection Program. Okay, next slide. Okay, so as an overview, while the fire encompasses areas in Omopia, Pulehu, and Kihei, the area I know this group is interested is in Kula, and so this is an aerial view of the extent of the fire area. Um, the pri the We are able to bring this assistance to the landowners as we are, next slide, as a soil and water conservation districts, and as a semi-government entity, we did qualify to apply for this assistance. A little bit of background so you understand who we are as the Central Maui Soil and Water Conservation District. We were created actually in federal law at the time of the Dust Bowl that then encouraged the states to create soil and water conservation districts. So we were created in 1947 under the territory of Hawaii, and we currently exist in the Hawaii Revised Statutes, Chapter 180. So we are a semi-state government entity as well as we exist in the Maui Code. So we are also semi-county. We have 16 soil and water conservations across the districts, and 5 of them are on Maui: West Maui, Hana, Olinda, Kula, and Central Maui, and Molokai. We are largely volunteer-led because there was a belief when we formed that the best way to have conservation implementation was from the ground up. So it's a board made up of volunteers that access by partnering with federal entities such as NRCS, we are able to deliver assistance for conservation implementation on the ground. Our mission is to provide a healthy natural resources environment for the people by coordinating technical, financial, and education resources. Next. Okay, so how did we get to where we are today? We had the horrible Hurricane Dora that created extreme situations for Maui County, and we felt there was an opportunity for assistance for disaster recovery. And as a result, talking to NRCS, the district did apply for assistance, and which we got approved. And just so that you know, it's not just assistance, but in addition, they forgave us from match requirements. So in other words, normally a grant such as what we received would require a 20% match, but the federal government forgave that match and is covering all of the costs associated with it. So once it was approved, we began the disaster survey assessments, and I believe some of you met our personnel from NRCS. I know we have Jason Q on the line from my local office, and a team of conservation specialists from the mainland as well as Hawaii went to the various disaster areas to assess the extent of damage and what would probably be qualifying for disaster assistance. So a little bit about that. The Emergency Watershed Protection Program is specifically to address emergency recovery for areas that create hazard to human and property. So in other words, if you had an area and runoff from the area would go nowhere other than within the property, that property would not qualify for assistance, as well as practices that are outside of emergency action. So following the disaster assessment, the grant agreement was signed after consultation with the state attorney general. As I mentioned earlier, we are part of the state government. So whenever we entertain grants such as this, it would need to be under the auspices of the state DLNR. So after the review, and they have helped us prepare all of the documents that will be discussed in the next step, we are ready for deployment, which is why we have asked for this meeting tonight. And at this time, I'd like to turn over the meeting to Rona Suzuki. Rona is helping us with the coordination with the various state agencies and the grant and the soil and water conservation districts. So she has been of great assistance in the negotiations with the Attorney General and USDA NRCS to prepare the final document so we can move forward. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Rona.
May, did you also want to talk about this slide, the measures?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I should do this final one. So this slide provides a summary of the type of work that we will be doing. And you can see the clearing of debris, mulching, installing erosion log barriers. I know some people questioned about the Gabion mattresses, and they are included. They're tiny, so I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's several places where there's Gabion mattresses, and then proposed vegetative buffer. So these are areas that we expect to reseed. And again, this is not, I know there was a question about the access road, proposed gravel access road. So you see it marked here in the cream color. Again, this is a plan as we work with individual property owners of what will happen on their property. These will be detailed out. And so at this point, I would like to turn it over to Rona.
So thanks, May. So for the Kula EWP, the plan for the Central Maui Soil and Water Conservation District is to hire a project coordinator. The the Central Maui Soil and Water did receive a proposal already, but if there are other people that you know of that might be a good fit for this role, we would love to hear from them. And so we are posting an RFI. Um, and the role is really to help execute this entire project in the Kula area. We have Michael Reyes, who's going to do the Olinda and Pulehu part, but we're looking for someone to handle the Kula side. And as we look at the scope of work for that coordinator will be to execute the landowner agreements. So landowner agreements are pretty simple documents, but they were drafted by the Attorney General. They're not super scary. They're not like full on contractual language. But they do require or enable the soil and water conservation districts and its contractors to access your land. And it specifies some of your roles and responsibilities, which we'll discuss shortly. The coordinator will also identify the contractors, and then the Soil and Water Conservation District will execute state contracts with the contractors in order to complete the work, in order to deploy the measures. And the target completion date for all of the measures to be deployed is June 28, 2024, which is pretty close. Because the Soil and Water Conservation Districts are under state organization, we are executing full state contracts for this work. According to HRS Hawaii Revised Statutes, Chapter 103D. So the contractors will have to have insurance. They'll have to be in compliance with all state requirements, such as DCCA, tax, and labor requirements. So they will have to be in good standing. I think that's important for landowners to know, so that we're only allowed to hire so businesses in good standing with and able to execute the work. And so in terms of like the roles and responsibilities between the Central Maui Soil and Water Conservation District and the landowners, once the landowners execute the landowner agreements, and you're expected also to communicate with any tenants that you may have, because some of the landowners are not necessarily living on the properties, and you need to we expect the landowners to assistance with communicating with any of your tenants about the work to be done. And then the landowners also have a responsibility of maintaining any measures that are deployed on their properties, the soil and water conservation districts will execute the contracts. The funding can only be used for going forward. It can't be used for work that's already been done. And we'll need to coordinate with NRCS with regarding any deviations from the proposed measures as articulated in the DSR, the damage survey reports. And that's pretty much the highlights of what the plan is. Questions? If you have questions, if you can either raise your hand or unmute, please.
No questions.
Questions? I think we see Stephen.
Yeah, you're up.
Hello. I'm curious about the projected completion date versus a drop dead date. Are we able to go beyond that date, or is that a date that we have to have everything completed by?
So the NRCS has indicated that we do have the possibility of doing a no-cost extension. Like if we can't get the contractors or we can't get contractors able to do the work by June 28th, then we have some leeway to explore opportunities for a no-cost extension.
So I'd heard previously that we had like some 200-something day window to do this work. So it would seem that that clock has been ticking already. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Exactly where is that road that we're talking about, the gravel?
Oh. I'm sorry. I think we might have lost you. Sorry.
So can we go back to that map
Yep.
that shows the different project tasks that are planned?
He asked where the road is going
Right.
to be.
You're right. So the next one, the other map that shows the road. There it is. So that cream colored line is the proposed gravel access road.
Where is that exactly?
Yeah, I don't get where that is either.
Yeah,
Okay,
where
so
is it?
the gulch is where the clearing and snagging is going to occur. So that's the, what do you call it? The first color, peach, dark peach or something.
Is that
So that's the gulch.
that's the gulch, and to the left of that gulch is Chevalier's property? Where exactly is that?
I
I'm
think
trying
that's where the road is.
Pardon?
I think the road is on Dave Chevalier's property, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I can chime in on this. This is Sarah Tequila. This is a D10 dozer road that was cut to fight the fire and is a major erosion hazard. We just surveyed it and it's eroding horribly. And so that when the EWPP DSRs are done, they look for things like that. And there's the option to keep it as a road if it needs to be an access road for safety. And in this case, it absolutely does for gulch access.
I see. So, Sarah, I live on Kulolani Drive, and how is that this mitigation efforts gonna affect us on Kulolani Drive?
Okay, so Ross, you and everybody else on that side, you're part of the proposed clearing and snagging. So any woody debris that's downslope from your home
Yeah, it is our gulch, but it's lower.
I'm sorry. Did somebody else have something to say?
Yeah, so someone was trying to clarify, I think that it's not if it's on your property, it has to be something, debris that is going to endanger human or property health, safety.
Exactly. Yeah, and that debris is in existence throughout the gulch. All the landowners on Kulilani own all the way to the bottom of the gulch, their property line. So, your property may need to be accessed to get to the clearing and snagging, or clearing and snagging may be happening on your parcel down in the gulch. And so
I see. Is
that's how you're affected.
is there going to be heavy equipment driving through our property? To
Um,
access
I-
the gulch?
That
I'll
will
turn that
be
over to May.
That will be determined after we get the contractors and they determine what the best way. And then this is a discussion that will happen with you ahead of it occurring. So that's all part of the landowner agreement.
I see.
What does snagging mean?
Dragging it out.
Okay, thank you.
And like I said, this is a proposal, but we need the actual contractors to go in to determine what the best route is, and then discussion with the landowner of what they agree to. So this is a plan basically. The important piece before I forget, I see there's about 27 people on the call, but I know that's not all of the landowners along this proposed plan. So if you know the absentee landowners, in other words, they're on the mainland or whatever, they weren't within our contact capacity. If you can provide us information so we can contact them, and this will become very critical because if we do not get permission from a landowner, we cannot go on their property. So, it may end up being a spotty job, and at that point, we're going to have to decide whether we go ahead or not. So if we can have your assistance to contact all of the landowners, that will be great.
May, that is something that I have offered on behalf of the Kula Community Watershed Alliance for several months now. We have a full list and different ways of contacting all of the involved landowners. We have been more than willing and still are more than willing to help with this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so you might take a look at the RFI and submit it, and that is how we will ultimately select the project director.
I'm not talking about a project director position. I'm talking about our community alliance. And that is not something you would need to hire anyone to do. I'm volunteering to help make sure that all of the landowners receive this support.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But at the same
Sarah?
time, if any of you know of someone interested in becoming the project director, I would encourage you to have them submit the RFI.
Sarah, Judy McCorkle here. I've been working with Kula, what's our street? Kulamanu on clearing that one of our public areas that's right on the gulch. And I have a call in to Joe because I really wanted to talk to you guys about some things that's going to involve the gulch property, but also we're clearing that property, which it's not habitated, and we need help with plants and ideas for planting and deer eradication, deer control.
No, absolutely. We'll get back in touch with you soon on that. I think one of the things that we have been patiently waiting to find out is what work is going to be covered by this NRCS funding, and then as an alliance with our funding, try to complement that work and not do the work that is already funded by the federal government. So we'd love to talk to you. It's great to hear your voice, Judy. But I think this meeting is more precisely about this. And it does look like the clearing and snagging goes all the way down through Kulamanu. So some of what you need done may, if it's on the gulch side, may be covered by this.
Right. That's what I'm thinking, that it looks like a lot of that goes within this territory.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Good.
And I just wanted to say, just from being an experienced project manager and working alongside somebody with, 20 years experience doing this exact kind of work, I have my doubts that this work will be done in a matter of just a few months. This work spans, you know, a 200-acre burn scar. It's disappointing to me to hear that. I'm sure many on this call too, disappointed that, you know, the bureaucratic process was eating up the 220 days window, and now we only have less than half of that left to do the work. And the work of clearing and snagging alone is very particular and has to happen methodically and carefully because of safety. We have a really, really steep gulch, you know, and so I hate to think that any of this work would be rushed because it is extremely dangerous work. And 220 days already seemed like quite a rushed project. So I like that. I'm happy to hear that there's the possibility for an extension if we need one. I guess it all depends on the type of project coordinator that's hired and their experience, because the other thing is, you know, the order of events. If you bring in the contractor, you have the contractor tell you what they think should be done, and then you take that to the landowner, and then you have to go to the court. It's a little bit of a zigzaggy process, the way it's been described. I think if you have an experienced conservation-based project manager, they know exactly what's needed and how many days are needed, and can get boots on the ground much faster than somebody with less experience doing this kind of work. So I think it all hinges on who is coordinating this project.
So do we even know who the contractor might be, or how are they going to get a contractor? How are they going to choose a contractor?
The contractors are going to be all different people depending on the work, like someone with a wood chipper, someone with an excavator, but the coordinator, that's the person we don't know.
Okay.
We don't know who's the coordinator is going to be. That I think is a big role and an important role.
Who makes that decision?
The district will be making that decision.
And who's the district?
The Central Maui Soil and Water Conservation District, because ultimately we're responsible for the implementation of the funding.
Essentially, so are you on that group, May?
Am I on I beg your pardon?
Are you with that group?
I'm the chair.
Okay. Okay.
When we I live on Kululani Drive. My name is David Kong. My neighbor next door had a cottage in the gulch that they had to remove all the debris from that area in the gulch. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with how they did it, but they bought in a big crane, and they actually dropped a little excavator in there, and they were able to use burritos, fill up the burritos with the excavator, and then just hoist it up and put it right on the truck, and they were gone. And I watched the process, and it was pretty smooth. So we might think about tapping into that resource to maybe get some help, you know, getting the same contractors that they got, or the same, at least we get a feel of who to tap into, right? To get that.
Yeah, Dave Chevalier, I just wanted to, say that I think the project coordinator is probably really a pressing issue and needs to be done in a very timely manner, so that I assume all of the contractors here have to put in the proposal and be approved. And so, but it seems to me the first order of business is the coordinator.
Exactly.
So that we don't.
Yes. Yes, you are correct. So if, again, you know, if there's someone that's familiar with the area and you think would be qualified, getting us the information so we can make sure that they submit an RFI would be appreciated. I just want to say one thing, because there was concern about the 220 days. So I want to emphasize that through this whole project, safety will be number one. So we will not rush the project just because of the 220 days. We want to make sure it's done correctly and safely. And if need be, we will utilize the no-cost extension process. So I want to assure this group that we will not rush this program just because of the 220 days.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but can the same people that did the excavation or did the debris removal be the contractor?
No.
The project director that we are looking for needs to manage the entire scope of what is planned for the Kula area, not just one area of, such as debris removal. That is a significant part, but they would have to organize the mulching, the seeding, the gabion mattress installation, vegetative buffers, and so forth. So it's a much larger scope of tasks that they would have to undertake.
It sounds like it's urgent to get the project coordinator.
Yes.
I'm disturbed that we don't have a project coordinator, and
Me too.
we, there's been so much incredible work done by the Alliance, by Kyle, and by everybody that's got boots on the ground, and we're now, like we're starting back at square one, which is painful. You look at the timeline, we've gone through the rainy season. I just feel like it's impossible for us as landowners to know what's going to be done and when it's going to be done. And right now we're being told we don't even have a project coordinator. So I'm wondering why, like Sarah says, can't we deal with local conservationists, Joe among them, that have shown responsibility of being able to remove treacherous debris. They do it safe. It's
well,
and why can't we use some of those people that have already been involved, that have already been doing it?
Okay, so again, for the project coordinator, we're looking for an entity that can manage the entire thing, so organize the whole thing, because otherwise if person A is doing one thing, person B is doing something else, then I would have to coordinate, okay, who's doing what and so forth. So what we're trying to do is hire that entity. So I am willing to entertain a team that comes together as a project coordinator. But ultimately, if it's a team, there'd have to be a leader that then, helps manage this whole thing.
I vote for Joe.
Have to have special kind of licensing.
What's that?
Do you have to have any special kind of licensing to be the project coordinator?
Rona, can you go back to the requirements?
What? Your hand's raised.
I still go, I still have a problem with your entity asking us of who the project coordinator should be. On one hand, I feel like that should have been determined before all this started, but in the absence of that, we do have a great group in the Kula Alliance, and maybe we can have a quick meeting to try and determine who we think would be really good at it, since you guys have been the ones doing the majority of the work so far. It just seems absurd to be lobbing it out to somebody who's unfamiliar with the area, the turf, and the project needed. And
somebody who doesn't know even what's gone on or what's happened or in the area.
I mean, even Army Corps doing our home sites, they were very, unfamiliar with the area too. So dealing with people here makes sense to me. Whether anyone, someone like Kyle could help us. No one's going to want the whole thing on, I'm sure, just as a volunteer effort. But to get the ball,
want another outside entity.
No, and to get the ball rolling, these guys, Sarah, Joe, Kyle, everybody's already been working at this for months on end. So I would feel disturbed by hiring anybody outside of our organization that we didn't know, and putting parameters of it must be one person. It's like that we should be handed candidates, not the problem of finding someone. But in the end of that, I feel that our group, the Kula Community Alliance, is well equipped to, suss out who's best able to do this and how we could chop it up to make it functional.
And I
Yeah,
think
so I just want to
that's exactly what
clarify
they're
that.
asking for.
I
What's
just want
that?
to clarify that we are asking for your suggestions because we totally agree with you that whoever we get needs to be very familiar with the properties that they'll be working with. So that is why we're asking for your opinion. We have some ideas, but we're not sure that that is the best route. So that is why we decided to go down the road of an RFI so that we make sure that all of the qualified, capable people are considered for this task.
Yeah.
May,
again,
how long is the RFI open for?
qualifications?
We're
Yeah, so
looking at
we can
about
narrow
2
down.
weeks because we know that this is urgent.
Okay,
What-
so we
what
have 2 weeks to find a coordinator and who is qualified
What are
according
the
to all of these
qualifications so we can
HRS.
find, kind of narrow down people? Just need to find the qualifications, right? So who,
Do you have
what
an
are the
RFP
qualifications?
for the person, for this coordinator? Is there a list of what you want?
And by the way, it needs to be a company, it looks like, according to these rules, they need to, be in good standing with the DCCA and all of these things. So it probably can't be an individual.
So
Great.
can you give us a list of what they need as a qualified contractor, like any kind of licensing or whatever? Then we can kind of look at that and go out and find people that have those qualifications. But right now we're just kind of spinning.
It's up on the screen right now. I don't know if you're able to see your screen.
I can see my screen, but I don't see.
Yeah, I don't see it. Okay.
So Rona, we had some of the tasks that this person would have to do. Maybe you can share some of those specifics.
What's on the screen is the plan is to hire project coordinators that would then execute the major tasks are to execute the landowner agreements, which detail the work that's supposed to be done on each of the properties, and identify
No, we get that. We get that. What are the qualifications for the coordinator? What do you want the coordinator, what qualifications does a project coordinator need to have?
ability to execute the agreements and identify the contractors, manage the work that's being deployed according to the schedule in order to complete the work.
I think
Okay.
if I could just say, I think we all know, what's required, and we just need to have a meeting. I think a terrific meeting would be with the Alliance and all the
Yeah.
neighbors that have been involved so far. Let's talk about it, and I would expect that they would accept or strongly consider who we proposed, or a team that we proposed.
Okay.
We need to talk about it amongst ourselves.
Okay, good.
I have a suggestion. May I have the
Yes, so-
floor for a minute?
Yes, so could you state your name and then go ahead?
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I want to talk about. All of us, I believe all of us on this call are part of the Kula Watershed Alliance, and we have regular Zoom meetings. And we can see each other during the meeting. I mean, when the director needs to throw something up on the screen, she does so, but only for as long as we need to see it. And then we get to see each other. And in so doing, because our names are right there, with our little video picture, and also if we want to speak, we can kind of wave, and it makes it a lot more coordinated for people to ask questions. During this call, people have stepped all over each other. There's been many times where several people are talking at the same time. There's been times where people have had background noise in their from their house that's made it hard to hear what you're saying, May. So I would like to recommend that you let us see each other so that we can, for the rest of this meeting, that we can continue. Thank you. I mean, I'm getting a few of the people on the top there. Yeah, that, this way, if somebody has a question or something like this, you just wave your hand and then we can be in a very coordinated way. Getting to look at somebody loading their dishwasher is not really what we need to be seeing right now, but there are ways to handle this a little bit more effectively. And last but not least, I do have a question about the work that's going to be done. So looking at, and you don't have to show the map again. I got it seared in my brain here, the map that shows where the road is and the line of the gulch and all of that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of green areas, particularly over on Dave Chevalier's land. And the green on the map said that that was going to be mulching and seeding. My understanding is that for the health of the gulch and the gulch line, we need to get rid of the wattle before we plant anything new. Otherwise, the wattle is just going to take over. Any new seed that's planted is going to be devoured by the wattle if we don't get rid of that. So I'd like to know if this organization is planning on removing that wattle.
Yeah, it wasn't specifically stated in the DSR because, of course, the wattle was not there at that time. But the situation has changed, so we will talk to NRCS to adjust, the workload that, because we recognize the wattle is invasive, and as the district, we would not support keeping it there. So that's the kind of adjustments that can be made. But again, it would have to be with NRCS concurrence and taking into account what the area looks like now versus what it looked like when the DSR was done.
Can I ask a quick question, Pamela?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the new growth of wattle or the existing trees that are a little more mature?
The mature trees.
Yeah, so we were a part of supporting NRCS when this budget was being put together for the DSR and put together the financials and a proposed plan, which they ended up going with. So when you see in the there's a breakdown of how the budget was formed, and that includes wood chipping to make the mulch, because it was determined the most economic and most supportive way to approach this was to chip on site the existing wattle and use that as the mulch. So I think the mature, pretty sure most of the mature wattle you see is going to be gone, because it's going to be needed to do that 3-inch thick layer of mulch all along the gulch there. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, basically. I mean, Sarah, you're the one, or, the Kula Watershed Alliance, and in the meetings that we had, that's where I basically got this idea that as long as the wattle is there, any healthy growth that we participate in, adding to the gulch or along the gulch line is going to be, almost pointless until that wattle is removed to the point that it's not going to reseed.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, it's going to take long-term maintenance to continue to pull the wattle before it goes to seed. But as far as the EWP goes, we can use all the existing mature wattle right there on site, chip it, make a thick layer. That will prevent regrowth for a certain amount of time. When you do have wattle that's growing and maturing, it's allelopathic. It does not allow other things to grow near it. So that's one of the reasons why it doesn't play nice in the landscape.
And that's why when I looked at that little map from the EWP with all those green places and
Yeah.
the green, the map specifically saying green is where you're going to quote unquote mulch and seed.
Yeah.
This is what, raises this question for me because,
Yeah.
okay, all right,
Yeah,
that
it's
sounds
the
good.
idea that everything on the gulch side of the gravel road. So you see the gravel road goes through, and then between the gravel road and the gulch, that's going to be mulched. And so there, it varies in width depending on where you are and where the road hits. But the idea there is to keep that from going back to wattle. But the EWP program really is an erosion mitigation program to prevent damage downstream. And, so it's not really set up to restore all the land. It's set up to put it in a good position so that restoration can take place. And that's where the Alliance wants to come in afterward to, make sure native canopy gets established there so that the wattle will never come back. But we need that initial stabilization work, just like the Alliance has been stabilizing on other properties that aren't a part of the DSR. It's basically the same practices, and we're just hoping it gets done soon.
Could I ask a question, Sarah?
Yeah.
The wattle that is coming up now in the burn scar, all the wattle seedlings that are now, if those are covered by the chips, will the chips kill it? Will that take care of that?
It'll help suppress it. We're planning some, and we're not going to get every single wattle, but we're planning some volunteer weeding days. It's for those of us who find great pleasure in pulling out invasive plants, and by the roots, we're going to have some therapeutic weed pulling together. But yeah, if it gets covered in a thick layer, I'm talking 3 maybe 4 inches thick layer, you can suppress it for an amount of time. It's way more manageable if you do that.
Good.
Sarah, there's also a lot of sugarcane grass in the gulch. What's the idea for that?
I'm not sure what part of the gulch you're referring to, Judy. I'm not sure.
This
Sorry.
is the part right at the bottom by David's. Well, it's across from, of course, all of it's on David's property, but near the Queen's Bath and down toward the lower part of Kula.
I'm not sure if it's cane grass there. Steve, are you still on the call?
It's cane grass, and it's a Roundup situation.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to need some herbicide, either that or grubbing it out. But the unfortunate thing with this weed stuff is the window of opportunity we had in dealing with it's rapidly closing.
Yeah.
And it's because we've been waiting for this EWP program because we didn't know what it was going to do.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions off of that. I guess I'm wondering, May, is it possible to file that no-cost extension now? I think it's very obvious that we're going to need it.
No.
So we have to wait for the.
No, we will. I mean, that's why we have Rona communicating in direct communication with NRCS on a regular basis and so forth. So we will make sure that it is done in a timely basis.
And can you, I'm not sure if you did this already, can you point us to the RFI?
Yes, Rona, can you share with them how we're planning?
I don't think it's posted. I'm checking if it's posted. I don't see it.
We don't
so I'm
have it yet?
checking the
Okay.
Status of it being posted.
You can send it to Sarah.
So the
when it's
RFI
posted,
is
then she can
requested.
distribute it to the rest of us. She's got everybody's contact.
Yes, so we are expecting it to be posted very shortly. We're trying to get it done by today, but it did not, we're not done. So as soon as we get it posted, we will make sure everybody is notified. So assuming you have provided us your contact information. during the registration.
May, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
On the going back to the project coordinator, is there a plan in place that NRCS and that your agencies have come up with that just needs to be implemented, or is that project coordinator figuring all that out on their own?
No, we have a scope of work.
Okay, and where would we find that?
Rona?
So the DSR is the scope, defines the scope statement. And so that is being posted on the Maui Soil and Water Conservation website. And so we'll send you the link to that as well.
Okay, it's hopefully more detailed than the map that we just saw on the slide.
It describes the practices to be deployed and where.
Well, just I don't want to drag things down, but just looking at that, if you look at the gulch above what appears to be Haleakala Highway, the green looks like it's indented some, not on along the edge of the gulch at part of it. I don't know whether that's Mark Ross's property or mine or Alan King's, but I've seen, you know, that it's a very steep cliffside in some areas. There's tons of giant dead trees that are half in the ground and half not. And I've seen no addressing or plan for how that's going to be dealt with. Am I missing something?
Yes.
Carrie, I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you have questions on particular parcels, you could send us the information and then we can confirm on the detailed map where that property is within our plans and relook at it.
Okay.
Carrie, the map that we're shown, even though it's really hard to make out the property lines on it, but
Yeah.
it actually corresponds to GIS data. You know, it's actually very specific. It's just hard for us to see it, and hopefully the project manager who receives, you know, the project, you know, the proposal or the contract to do it will get the actual data and be able to locate everything more precisely.
Okay. It seems very backwards to me to have a plan in place and look for somebody to execute it when the it seems the executing person should have input in the plan, or certainly in how to execute it.
I think it was, you know, the NRCS and their team, their DSR team, were the experts on the ground, you know, pointing out what needs to be done where. And that's enumerated in the DSR and the scope of work. And then the project manager would basically coordinate all the expert contractors to go in and do that work and, you know, make sure it happens. But it has been pretty spelled out what needs to happen where already.
Okay.
A suggestion on that. I don't know whether this is for the project manager or whether the soil district could do this for us, but it would be very nice to have that map detailed for each one of the property owners. So if their TMK was shown on the map and the lines of the treatments parcel by parcel, it would end a lot of confusion and I think would expedite all of this work.
Yes, we'll try to get that on the site also for your reference.
May I have a question, May and Rona? When the contractor does come with their plan of what to do and they discuss it with the landowner, what if the plan that they have is beyond our experience? They say they want to use a skid steer or an excavator, and I don't know what one looks like from the other. Is there going to be someone who can give us advice on how to go about doing this, or do we just rely on that one contractor?
Well, I think the project coordinator is going to be ultimately responsible. That's why we have to be wise about who we pick.
Right.
Right, and then the contractor would not go off doing just what they want, but whatever equipment and so forth that comes in would have to match what the DSR says. So it's the DSR is the recipe book. So basically the project coordinator, what I see is it's like having a symphony and all of the contractors are the instruments in the symphony and the conductor is the project coordinator. So basically, they're trying to make sure all of the tasks are done in an orderly manner and then to keep you as the landowners included in the process and to make sure that um, what happens is matches what your desire for the property is.
Is there a step-by-step process of where you begin and end?
I think that's where talking with the project coordinator and the contractors. That's, I believe, how it would, because there can be multiple tasks going on at the same time because you have different contractors doing different tasks.
Yeah, I have to concur with the earlier comments that it's inconceivable that this work could be done by the projected completion date or even close. I think it's massive. It's a massive amount of work that has to take place in some really difficult terrain to access. So,
Well, and I'm so happy that it's happening
yeah.
now. I think it finally, it has taken bureaucratically an ultra long period of time, but it's happening. So thank God.
Yeah, and even for me, it was a bit frustrating, but I think you should take comfort in the fact that it is being done correctly and, all of you know, the checks have been done because you don't want to be caught later on, saying that, oh, you weren't supposed to do that and stuff like that. So all of those checks have been done. So yes, even myself has been frustrated, but I am thankful to NRCS for the detail, especially the Attorney General also, to make sure that you are protected through the whole process.
We appreciate.
It kind of seems like until we get a project coordinator, most of this discussion is kind of moot.
Not really, because I think you can help us making sure that all of the landowners within this project area we can get contacted and we can get their approval to carry on the project. Because, we did ask the Attorney General's office, what happens if some of the landowners decide not to participate or we can't get in touch with them? And they said in the past, the projects have died and we do not want that to happen. So another purpose
So
of
all
this
you
call
need,
is,
I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand what you need from us. Then you need from us to say, yes, we would like to proceed with the project and get a project coordinator.
right. And where there's an absentee landowner, so in other words, they're not here. So you have people maybe living in Colorado renting out the property to someone else. So helping us making sure we get to that Colorado landowner because they're the ones that has to sign.
And you know what? Like, as Sarah said before, the Alliance is on it. So rely on Sarah, rely on the Alliance, trust us, and I think we can get through this with the Alliance already.
Because I think
having a good handle on it.
Thank
we
you.
also have the Kula Association, which has the ability to contact all of the owners on the Kula side.
Okay, great. So that's exactly the kind of outreach we are hoping to accomplish during this meeting tonight. And not come and tell you folks what's going to happen, but have you help as a grounds up, to help implement this program. Because to us, that is the greatest way that we can ensure success of the project by, having your assistance and knowledge help guide this whole process.
It would be most useful to know who you have contact for already so we can figure out the missing pieces.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't know who's not been contacted or who not hasn't agreed.
Yeah, so we can, Rona, we can share with them our contact list, yeah? So that and if we have the wrong people for the property, then you can help correct that also. Because
Yeah,
not
that's how
everybody responded to us.
we worked with Jason Hugh when the DSR process was happening and helped him because, everybody works with the real property tax website and sends paper letters, and that doesn't always work, and so Jason would come to me and say, hey, do you have emails or phone numbers through the Alliance? And then I'd send him what I had, and that allowed us to close the gaps more. So I think together we can all really help with that and make sure that everybody who qualifies for this treatment can get it. But can I ask a slightly different question?
Go ahead.
I'm just curious if it's been discussed with the Attorney General, if there's a property with significant hazards related to erosion, whether that's water or air related erosion post-fire, and they turn down the offer for the work. They just say, you know what, you found me. I heard what you had to offer. I don't want to do it on my land. And then it continues to pose a hazard. As far as liability goes, where does that fall? When somebody turns down, I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but I'm just very curious about if someone were to turn down that work.
The AG is a state AG and has not been able to comment on that question. It's there's a liability concern, right?
Well,
I'm just
I think
curious if anybody knows.
no, I'm just saying, what they already said was that it could kill the project. Could be. It could kill the project.
For everyone?
Yeah, that's what she said, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's been the past experience
Wow.
with DLNR, where they've had watershed projects, good watershed projects, but that they could not get all of concurrence by all of the landowners.
So you mean one landowner could stop it?
I don't know if it's just one, but if it's in a critical location, possibly. So we will continue to pursue that question because that is a fear I have. So stay tuned. I would say the answer to that question is work in progress.
Yeah. That's the biggie.
Okay.
Yeah, so one more thing, throughout this project, we're going to have a lot of mulch material. And I'm sure you've seen in the news the coconut rhinoceros beetle and how it showed up in Kihei. And its best home is mulch. And so what I am going to ask is all properties that will have mulch on it, if they would be willing to have the Department of Ag provide you with a CRB trap. And that
If I can interrupt, I work for Maui Invasive Species Committee, and we've
Yes.
actually got 4 traps up in Kula in mulched areas already. They've been up for about a month now, and I'm monitoring them every week.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but the more traps you have, the better the coverage. So we're hoping that, again, it's part of good practices as we go ahead. So that will be something we will be asking the landowners. And I did talk to Department of Ag, and they will have enough traps to deploy.
Right. And that's also important to, like, one of the points around the CRB is we don't want to import mulch, right?
Yes.
If we have the woody material, the invasive woody material, let's use that. And then you have a much less likely chance that you're going to have the rhinoceros beetle.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Yes, so that's what we're hoping to do within. So, you folks mentioned the wattle and so forth. So that has become a resource now for us because we need the mulch.
Right.
I have a question about the coordinator. will they, we went through this with the debris removal where the whole neighborhood really wanted to be informed of, when there was going to be heavy machinery and, loud noises and any disturbance. Is it going to be required of the project coordinator to keep the entire, because we're dealing with a pretty densely populated neighborhood, to keep everyone in the loop about the work?
Yes, so part of the coordinator's task is to make sure that, the community is working together and so forth, and communication will be key for that. So I'm sure the coordinator will work with existing organizations to assist with that, because it doesn't make sense to rebuild another structure when there is a working structure in place. So again, I would expect the coordinator to be working with you to implement the project.
Yeah, and I would
Thank you.
expect that the coordinator would have a hotline, some kind of messaging system, to feedback system, so that people's complaints could be heard, and we would have a good system that way. That would be part of the project manager's job.
I guess what I was looking for with the project manager is if there are specific requirements in terms of what kind of skills, what kind of education, what kind of background. Is there do you do like a request for an employee that says we want this, and this?
I think what we're looking for is someone that has managerial experience. So in other words, working with different types of people and being able to coordinate, because they will be working with contractors who are experts in their different fields. So, I
So-
would not expect the project director to be an expert in all of the different tasks that are coming up.
But managerially experienced specifically with construction work or with environmental work or with,
I think, if they're used to working with project management, it doesn't matter what kind. Right now, I don't think I'm going to be picky, but I think key to the project director is their ability to work with people, because the success of this project depends on, working with all of you. So I
right.
think
I
that
think it
will
would be
become
nice.
key.
I think it would be nice if they had a certain awareness of native species or in some kind of environmental consciousness.
Yes, of course, we are a conservation district, so we would expect them to have a conservation ethic to start with, since they are working with us. And as far as the technical, again, as I mentioned, whatever practices that become implemented needs the concurrence of NRCS. So we will be relying on the technical expertise of NRCS through this whole project.
So again, I would suggest the Alliance have a meeting about this and talk about it. And I would expect the NRCS to put great weight on what the Alliance recommends.
Okay, good.
Is there a salary for the coordinator?
Rona?
That hasn't been set.
But you're not expecting it to be a
Experience of the
volunteer.
That hasn't been set.
It depends on the experience of the parties.
I can share a little of what I know from the state level NRCS person who explained to me how this works. So we've all heard that there's 2.7 million set aside for all the treatments in Kula. That is 85% of the project budget. There's the additional 15% that's for the technical assistance, and that includes project management, getting permits, doing all the paperwork. The Maui Soil and Water Conservation, as a fiscal sponsor, takes a percentage of that. So there is funding that does not come from the treatment budget, which is basically the installation of all these treatments. That's 2.7 million. there's
Mhm.
another budget that represents the other 15% that goes towards all the other stuff, including project management.
And what
That's-
if in the course of us waiting for all this to happen, a chunk of the work has already been done? Is there, that's
So
a
the work
question
that's,
for,
yeah,
that
the
was a-
work that's already been done, they just described it will not be funded by this program.
Right.
and if the program goes to begin and chunks of it have happened, what will happen to that money that's earmarked to do it? If neighbors and people get restless and decide to get busy and go, start working on it, what happens to the funding?
Please understand that the funding is for the entire project. So this includes Olinda, Pulehu, Kihei, as well as Kula. So the DSR budget was it was exactly that, a budget, a plan. So what actually finally happens on the ground, we're hoping to make sure that whatever tasks that are urgently required does get completed. So again, and circumstances may have changed on the ground. So we want to make sure that what we finally implement is the best practice for the project. So again,
Understood.
I think
And
we have to look at the budget as just a plan, and then what finally happens will be decided as, and re-looking at the land as it is currently.
So the budget for the project coordinator is separate. That comes out of what
the
bucket?
2.7.
That
No,
does
it
come from-
doesn't. So
No,
the
it is not the 2 points. Again, the project
No.
coordinator, we are not seeing, at least I am not seeing Kula as by itself, or Pulehu Kihei by itself, or Olinda by itself. We were allocated a total funding. I signed for one number. I did not sign for several numbers. And so we will will manage the monies in the best possible manner to ensure that the final result for Upcountry will be the best possible utilizing the given funds.
It does seem that the project coordinator's knowledge and expertise is growing by the minute, though, if he now has to be, or she has to be aware of all these different areas, it's.
Yeah, is that for every area?
No,
All the areas?
there's already project managers for Olinda and Pulehu. That's already been determined. Lahaina
Okay.
has its own project situation.
What about Kihei?
How
What
much
was
do they
Kihei?
earn?
No, so for the other areas, there's fewer landowners, and there's project coordinators that have been working in the areas. So it made it easier. And again, in this case, we have many individuals versus 4.
Mhm.
Therefore, we're handling it in a very different manner because we
So
want
what
to
is their
provide
budget?
you
What is
people.
what's
Again,
the
we have a
salary range
total
for those
budget.
people?
We have a total budget that we're working with and the scope of work, and we're treating it accordingly. So again, it depends on the extent of work, the amount of work that needs to be done.
May,
So-
do we have, I mean, when it was presented to us, there was a number, 2.7 million set aside as a budget. Obviously it was a plan. It wasn't set in stone, but that was just for Kula. And I understand there's, millions for Pulehu and, other funds for Olinda that adds up to like 15 million or something like that. At least that's what Yukile told me. But in the DSR for Kula that was shared with us, it did say that 2.7 million in treatments, not the project management or the technical assistant, but just the treatments. So what you're saying is that, as the contract came together from NRCS to the AG to the district, that became one project for the district to manage on 3 separate burn areas. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you expect it to stay close to what the DSR was for Kula with that funding?
Okay, again, as I mentioned, as we've prepared the final landowner agreements, we're going to try and make sure that the best practices will be implemented. So I'm not marrying myself to the DSR as it was written, but I want to make sure that the practices are appropriate for what is on the land at this time. So again, I believe the total may be correct, but the way the monies get allocated may change over time. So that is why I want to have that flexibility at this time. And I'm not going to say they said X amount was for the road, so we're going to spend
Right.
that amount for the road.
Right.
And so that's where I am right now.
So is that,
so
does that, and are those decisions made by you? Or is there a group of experts in addition to you with your expertise that determine whether something's quote unquote appropriate?
So again, this becomes something that the project director, when they look at what the DSR was, and then comes to looks at the land, and we could have a NRCS technical support team along with them. And if they see that there needs to be a change in the practice, then it will be recommended, and it will be NRCS providing us with the technical advice of what the best practices should be. So it is written in our agreement that we implement what NRCS has identified as the best practice. So my decision is easy. It's just following instructions from NRCS. I'm not
Okay,
making the
that
decision
makes
on the
sense.
practice.
That makes sense.
I'm not an expert on all of those different practices. And I always defer to experts when making these types of decisions.
Okay. This is hopeless. It won't happen in our lifetime.
It will happen, I promise you. It is something that is urgent for your property and all of the different properties, that have been affected. So we will work very hard to make it happen within a reasonable amount of time. But again, we will ensure that environmental practices, as soil and water conservation districts, one of the things we do is we review building plans. In other words, we do the grading and grubbing reviews. So whenever we do that, we make sure that properties, resources are protected as developments happen. And so that will be something, these projects will bypass that formal grading and grubbing permit requirements. However, as districts, we need to make sure that the practices are continued. And for us, it's important that this program be implemented as soon as possible to protect the land and your homes and humans, because there is homes downhill from some of these areas. So again,
sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
I just wanted to, ask Sarah to schedule a meeting for the Alliance to invite the community, spread the word, and let's have a meeting very soon as it's practicable for the community to get the word and everybody to get on the Zoom call and for all of us to discuss it as a community. Yeah, who will be the project manager?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. And we would have met tonight, but this meeting was happening. But we can totally schedule something within the next few days. It sounds like they want to have a decision made in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay,
I do
so
think
when you have your meeting, again, if you have a list of all of the landowners that you can, updated list of, in other words, if somebody has talked to one of those absentee landowners recently and has that information, we would really, really appreciate that.
May, I do think though that even in looking for a project manager, we kind of need a salary range. I mean, are we talking 40,000 or 80,000 or?
Rona?
I think that the board of directors, the Central Maui Board of Directors just needs to have recommendations about what those options are and then discuss the compensation requirements with those candidates.
And I think that might be one of the recommendations we come up with after our community meeting.
Okay, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
a lot of project managers have like a rate, or, you know, if you were to retain the services of this company, it's an hourly rate. And then, you know, the ability to complete the project just depends on the size of the project, the length of the project, you know, and how many hours are spent coordinating the project. So, it's not like it's a year-long job. It's an actual project job that has you know, a definite end to it. So it probably wouldn't be a salaried kind of thing. That's my guess. It would be more like, here's
So it
my
would be
rate.
an hourly rate?
Here's my rate. Here's what I would, you know, how quickly I think I can complete this. You know, often you'll do, you know, a do not exceed amount. Like, my hourly rate is this. The total cost to manage this project would not exceed this amount, you know, because you can't really treat it like a salaried. No one's going to be an employee of the district. They're going to be another contractor, essentially a subcontractor who manages other contractors, you know.
Okay.
So that's a good
Got it.
question there, Sarah. So now, it being a subcontract position, now they would need to require their own insurance. And
Yeah.
now I noticed that they had, they would need to require a workman's comp, if
Yep.
I'm not mistaken on that.
Yep.
Okay, so now, like, as a project manager, as a sole proprietor, why would you be required to carry workman's comp?
I think they want it to, if you are a company that has employees, you would need to be providing that. I don't know that they would hire a sole proprietor, to be honest with you. That's not something I can answer, but
We're talking about the project manager as a single person, though.
Yeah, but they've already stated that it has to be in accordance with Hawaii law, and that requires all those things.
It's somebody with a company.
Oh.
You know, it's going to be
Okay.
somebody who works for a company or owns a company that is, you know, bringing their resources to the table. That's my guess.
Okay. Yeah. So again, you know, I think as we post the RFI on our site, and that may help provide some of that information. So, you know, I know there may be more questions, so I believe my email was posted. I see it's posted in the chat. So if you have any more questions, please direct them to me. I am going to ask that you send questions through the email, because I'm in the midst of a really bad cold, and I've been muting myself in between because I'm going through coughing fits. So if I overtalk, I will almost gag. So I ask for your patience and send questions through email, and I will respond to you. I noticed that Yukile Sugimura did sign in. Yuki, would you like to say a few words before we close? You there, Yuki?
Yeah, I am. So I've been listening. Good job. I'm glad that you all are having this discussion. And Sarah, thank you for all the work that you're doing. And you do have a good list of and communication with, you know, the people over, you know, weekly meetings, or as many as you have held. And if I can be of assistance with that, let me know of the landowners that I have contacts for. So whatever, let me know how I can help. And thank you very much for doing this, May and Rona and the Alliance.
Yes, so probably, as I mentioned, you know, we're hoping to have the project director identified and closed, and then identified shortly after 2 weeks. So what we may want to do is have a meeting as you submit names, so that if there's any questions, we can have a discussion. So we can, you know, again, have a Zoom meeting to make sure all concerns are addressed as we move forward. And again, I thank, you know, those of you who have worked on this area, you know, thus far. Really appreciate the work that you've done, and, you know, moving forward, we want our responsibility as the district will be to make sure that things happen in a timely manner. But again, emphasizing safety. We're not going to rush the project because there's a deadline for the end date, because we can go ahead with a no-cost extension. But again, that there will be a time to do that. And, you know, working with Rona, who is very familiar with the process, we'll make sure that those requests go in on a very timely manner. You know, I thank Jason and the rest of the NRCS crew because they have been very supportive of this whole effort. And again, you know, emphasizing that they did forgive the match. Otherwise, we would have had to come up. I would have had to go to Ukile and the DLNR and ask them to help us with that 20% match to make this happen. So having them forgive that was huge. So we're very fortunate that we're able to get this funding. And again, with all of your assistance, because that's the only way we're going to make this happen. Hopefully we'll get this done this year, no matter what. Okay? That's a promise I make to you.
All right. Thanks, May.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.